All right, welcome to the Erie Music History Podcast. I'm Chip Shell, and today I have someone as a guest that I've never met before until 30 seconds ago or so. I've heard his name for many years in the music scene as the drummer when it comes to jazz, but we're going to talk about jazz and any other bands that he's been in. So welcome, Joe Dorris, to the podcast.
Thank you, Chip.
Hey, your name has come up numerous times from my buddy Anthony Stefanelli. I know his dad, Tony, and you have played bass for many years, and Anthony even played with you percussion when he was younger, way back in the day. But let's talk about your younger days. The Dorris name is pretty popular in town. Your dad was in real estate. You were in real estate. You at least have a brother who's a musician, I think I know of. How did it start? Family musician? Any other musicians in the family? Or?
Yes, my two brothers are both players. And it started, the usual thing, 5th grade. Markham's came up and said, okay, do you want to take lessons? And they're pushing, for kids to do it. And I went to St. Jude's, and I was like,
okay. They came to the school?
They came to the school, yeah.
Oh, no way.
And they would come in, and they'd give us lessons at the end of the day at the school, which was really great.
Yeah.
So I wanted to play drums, and of course they I bought a snare drum.
All right.
And by 6th grade, they had too many drummers, and they wanted me to play trumpet, and I said no.
Good choice.
Yeah. And then shortly thereafter, I had quite the temper, quite the anger, so my dad bought me a drum set that I could hit.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
More therapy than musicians.
It was therapy.
Yeah.
I would go down after school and beat the heck out of them. And it was wonderful.
Wow. And your brothers, did they?
And my brother was taking up guitar at the time because we had a brother-in-law at that time. First song I learned with my brother was Little Black Egg. Look that one up.
Okay, yeah, I don't know that one.
It was guitar and snare.
All right.
Yeah, and my brother-in-law, he would play, Ventures, Go-Go and all that, and we would just jam along with him.
Yeah,
at a very young age.
So your brother-in-law was a musician
He was
also?
a guitarist, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
all
no
right.
longer plays. He's, kind of a hack, but it was enough to get us going.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. And my brother, Bill, he moved on to playing in a band, and that he got when he went into high school.
Okay.
And I just kept playing drums. And then I got into high school and
Where at?
Prep.
Okay.
And after the first swim class, I decided I better get into the band room. Wasn't doing that again.
I know what you're talking about. I got you. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And, marching band was a lot of fun. There was Dan McNamara, Jim Griffey, Bauman. Let's see who else. A bunch of just guys that we hung out with.
What year did you graduate?
73.
73, yeah. There's a lot of musicians around that time period, great musicians. Dan McNamara's coming in town here this weekend, actually.
Yeah. I noticed that. I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him. Really good drummer.
Yeah.
And, so, one of my first gigs was actually one that Dan gave up to me, and Scott Kuhn was on keyboards.
All right.
So,
another person who's been on the podcast recently.
Yeah, Scott's a great guy, nice keyboard player.
So that was your first band in high school? Or?
Yeah, for first band in high school, I lived with mostly in the McDowell area, so I had kids from McDowell, Bob Madia, the Quadries. My brother had a band, and so we, just hung out with them.
So what was your brother's band? Was he older? Is that what the deal is?
Yeah, he's like 18 months older.
Okay,
but
right, not much
when
older.
you're that young.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so his band, Evanoff was on bass. Chuck Quadri on drums. They were a lot of fun.
Do you remember the name?
I really don't.
Oh, it's a long time ago. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah,
things blur back then.
Yeah.
But I was their roadie, that I remember.
Oh, okay.
And then Chuck would let me play along with them. Like when they did Santana tunes, I could play the floor tom with them.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, big deal. And then after that, basically, that band just evolved into our first band that my brother and I put together, which was Antia.
Well, what happened? First of all, the one thing I want to mention is you were in a band named after what my dog is right now. You were in Zeus.
Oh,
what was? I mean, that was you and
did.
Robert Media, Jim Johnson, and my old buddy Bob Raphael, right?
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob was it? Yeah, Pegasus was the initial one of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we went Zeus, Pegasus.
Changed.
Oh, yeah. But we were into Greek gods and,
Sure.
the mythic
Very
figures.
Cool. Yeah. What type of music?
Atomic Rooster.
Atomic Rooster.
Yeah, let's see. James Gang,
Okay.
Procol Harum.
Yeah.
Actually, that was the sort of stuff we could cover. I really liked Black Sabbath.
Wow.
Yeah, Deep Purple. I went and saw all those bands. Grand Funk Railroad was one of my favorites.
And that's 71, 72 around there. I mean, that's all brand new stuff coming out there.
Yeah.
To play Procol Harum, I mean, he needs...
That was the first song I sang.
Did they have any keys?
Yeah, we had, I can't even think of the keyboard player's name.
Yeah, I don't have a
anymore.
keyboard player listed, so yeah.
Yeah, we had a
All
keyboard.
Can't
he went
remember.
to prep. No, I don't
All right.
remember. No.
Well, that's the one thing I was going to say is you're one of those rare drummers that does sing, and you've always sang in bands?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the thing with my brother and I is we learned very early that singing made you money.
Oh, yeah? All right.
Yeah. So, we did, we liked to do harmonies. Bill was really into harmonies.
Oh, wow.
And it was great because by the time we hit the Dorris Brothers band, we had, 7 of us singing.
Oh, wow.
And it was really, really cool,
Well, so Zeus doesn't last very long, or Pegasus, or whatever, right? Or
actually,
does it?
what happened? The reason we even got that band together was because I was teaching at Osiki's at West Erie Plaza, and I was gigging at Lord Bethwick's, and I was like 16, 17.
Wow.
And so Jerry said, "Hey, I want to advertise a band. You got a band?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got a band."
I'll just
Get
make
on
it
the
up right
phone,
now.
call up my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were in the paper with a band name before we really had a band. It was funny.
What were you gigging at Bethwick's with? Other people?
It was my brother Bill on guitar. We had a keyboard player who moved to Philadelphia. He was really good. My brother knows his name. I don't remember his name anymore.
Okay, yeah.
And the bass players were many
In and out.
different, in and out.
Yeah, right.
And, Bachman Turner Overdrive, that sort of stuff, dance band.
Sure.
So,
That's what Bethwick's was all about. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
then you moved to Antia, you said, or?
that was kind of, Antia was the one that we did that smaller band, then we did the Antia band, which did all the high school proms and functions. So,
You played the Boston store with Antia. You played Bethwick's. You played the Suburban YWCA Youth Council Dance at the Suburban Y. Huge gig, I'm sure. And I even have you playing the Shrine Club for the Union Bank Christmas party in 1973.
More than likely.
I'm sure you remember that perfectly. Yeah. It's funny, I saw that, and it's in the paper it listed you as contemporary rock. I thought, what is contemporary rock? And it was just
it was dance music before
of the
disco
day.
became popular.
Oh, really?
Okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in that band, there was a guy named John Sable.
That's our keyboard player.
Okay.
Oh,
all right.
thank you.
That's the keyboard
I should
player.
write that down
All
myself.
right. I wondered if he was related to Jim Sable or not.
No, he's out of town, and he was a wild character, and he was a very good keyboard player. We had a lot of fun. Unfortunately, he moved.
Yeah, it said he was a Mercyhurst grad, art grad that I found out. So your brother Bill went to Edinburgh, right?
Yeah.
You anywhere?
No, I did 1 year at Barron, and
so,
I majored in pool and bowling.
All right. And then did you go into your dad's business then?
Yeah, what happened is we had the Dorris Brothers, and we were making really good money for back then and gigging, 7 times a week, because you'd do happy hours at 5, so we did 2 of those, and then we'd gig 4 or 5 nights a week.
Where were you? Where were some of the places?
18th and State, Holiday Inn down there.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, we were a steady band there. We actually started prior to that at the Calabrese Club, and we'd play till 4 or 5 in the morning and go sleep on the beach for a long time.
You're one of many people that have told me that, and it just still blows my mind because I always ask the same question. Like on a Wednesday or a Tuesday, people were there that late, and the answer always is what you just said.
Yeah, and we quit the night that we were done with our gig, and we were just hanging out. And all of a sudden there was a ruckus, and everybody pulled their guns out.
Oh.
And we went, what the hell? We quit shortly thereafter.
Shortly thereafter,
So I was a tough guy to work for.
Yeah. Hemingway Lounge?
Oh, yeah.
At the Hilton?
Yep.
That was what it was originally called, I think.
Yeah, we did actually show stuff with them. We had Jess Cossain as our lead singer.
Oh.
Jess was he had his own baseball card, single A or double A.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he played for Gannon, I guess, while he's going there. But he was a good singer, hell of an entertainer.
Oh, okay.
And he ended up moving to California, Los Angeles, and calling us up and saying, "Come on out, let's gig." And that's when my dad talked my brother into going into real estate instead of going out there.
Oh, okay.
And actually, at that time, we were also, the younger brothers had a horn section. They drove us to Buffalo to meet, and the younger brothers wanted us to join this horn section and tour, back them up with our band,
Yeah.
do the touring and all that, which my brother was definitely headed off into another. He was going to be a businessman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
And then at this point, the younger brothers were Vinny and Paul?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
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 Okay.
both of them.
All
So
right.
that would have been a ton of fun.
But you didn't do it,
we didn't do
obviously.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever travel with the Dorris Brothers? Or
No.
No?
No, we didn't want to.
No.
Yeah.
All right. So were you working full time as a regular job as a realtor, or?
No, we were
No.
making, I was making at least $1,600 a week playing music.
Jesus.
And when you're 18, 19,
Oh, my
it was
God.
stupid money back
Yeah,
then.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Were
that
you
was a
both
party.
at home, living at home? Or no?
Not frequently. Whenever I'd run out of money, yes.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Yeah, because I always ask guys that, like playing 7 days a week, in the evenings, if you had to go to a regular job. I know I had talked to Ron Rudler, and he was a school teacher, and he was like, I'd play till 2 a.m. or 3 a.m, and I'd have to get up and go teach kids,
Yeah.
and
No, luckily, when we did live at home, my parents let us rehearse there.
they did.
And we'd come upstairs from the basement, and they'd be sitting like 2 feet from their TV, leaning into it. They were really good to us.
Oregon Drive?
Yeah, Oregon Ave.
Yeah, Oregon Ave. Yeah, I used to live on Wyoming. I know
Okay,
right where
so
it
you
is.
know it,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's a tight-knit community. Those neighbors must have heard you for sure.
We had everybody over every
Yeah?
rehearsal. Yeah, it was the place to hang. So
it
that's
was.
why the parents liked it.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, it was very good.
All right. So the Dorris Brothers, that band, who all was in it? I'm sure there were a lot over the years. And,
Our keyboard player was Fred Ardillo.
okay.
And Fred was just in town last week. He's a B3 player now. Really good keyboard player.
Yeah.
He graduated from Berkeley, I do believe, but then he became a salesman for some big company, and he did really well doing that. But he
Okay.
still plays music.
All right.
He's sending me all his charts. I saw him last week.
Okay, all right.
Everything he's working on. So, yeah, he moved to Boston, as I did also. But there was him. It was bass players. We had Bob Raphael, and then we had Durf Hopseger and John Dauber. I think that's the only 3, although there might have been another 1 or 2
Okay.
along the way. Vocalists, we had Celeste Sutton and Denise, and I don't know her last name.
That's all right. All right.
Really good singers. Denise ended up going to New York, I hear, and doing pretty well. Celeste went to New York but had some sort of issues and had to come back. Really good singers,
Yeah.
though. Yeah,
Guitarists,
my
your brother?
brother Bill was on guitar.
And so
Yeah.
it was always, 5?
Yeah, and then with Jesco
Horns?
Sane when we had him fronting us.
Okay.
Yeah, we never went to horns. We had
No.
no, we didn't have to. Fred had all the sounds, the synthesizers. He
Right.
did all of that. Yeah.
Huh.
So we'd learn like the whole Stevie Wonder's Introversion album.
whole album.
The whole album.
Yeah.
And we'd play that. And that was just, that sort of stuff was so much fun. And we had the vocals to cover it all.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
The rehearsing had to have been, you're playing 7 days a week, so there's probably not much time to rehearse. But
We always got together and did vocal rehearsals
Good.
at least once or twice a week. And then everybody had to learn their parts, and then we'd show up.
ready.
And we'd show up a little early, run through the new tune, and give it a go.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're flying without a net there. It's just, that's some scary stuff, I would imagine.
It was pretty wild.
Yeah.
It was fun. Yeah.
What were some of your favorite places to play back then?
We really did enjoy mostly 18th and State because it was so convenient and close. We'd go up to the Peak. We'd go out to other places that were around.
What was 18th and State?
That was the Holiday Inn.
Oh, the Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always forget what it was. What the lounge was called.
I
there.
don't know that.
It was like the Red Tomato for a
Yeah,
while or
yeah.
something, but I don't know what originally.
Yeah.
So you were, what do you call that? A show band or?
Yeah. By the time we evolved, we actually bought outfits with
You did?
black jump outfits
Wow.
with frilly shirts that we lent. When those got retired, one of our friends, we gave it to him. He was challenged, but he was a very good skater, and he won awards, and he would wear our outfits while
Wow.
skating.
All right. Yeah,
So-
outfits were a thing. then.
Outfits were a thing,
Yeah.
and we moved from our rock into total disco. We have emerged ourselves and made a lot of money doing it.
Okay.
And yeah, a lot of criticism from people because we did disco. I mean, but we had the vocals to do Bee Gees. There's so many, everybody sang.
Right,
So we
right.
covered Bee Gees. We did, all the stuff that was popular then.
So you were competing with Wave, Macmillan, and Life.
Yeah.
those types
Yeah, those
of
would have been
bigger
the
bands.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, with all those vocals and everything dance. And I always think of you, and I introduced you as a jazz player. Were you not into that back then?
Well, I was studying from Nick Ronzitti at the time.
Okay.
Tito.
Yeah.
His nickname. Yeah. He's still, him and I still play all the time.
Right.
And his first thing he put me on was Nancy with the Laughing Eyes, which was like, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So he introduced me to jazz.
Okay.
And jazz was okay. And then I went and saw Led Zeppelin at Three Rivers Stadium.
Okay.
And then the following night, I went to Boston, and I went to this nightclub, Jack's, and I saw
Aerosmith.
no,
Boston.
Not Ed Thigpen,
Oh,
a famous drummer. Anyways, it'll come to me.
all right.
But after I saw him, not only did he have the triplet chops of Bonham,
Yeah.
he had the freedom to play them whenever the hell he wanted.
Oh, okay.
And he just was
It was very jazz type of-
it was
yeah,
real heavy
gotcha.
jazz. And I absolutely loved it.
Wow.
And at that point, I went, okay, I'm going to learn jazz for real.
What point is this? How old
And
are
that
you?
would make me right around 21, 22.
So you're still
so
playing.
I'm still playing here, and
Yeah.
and it was because one of the guys in Dorris Brothers was Larry Maxim for a while. He's a drummer
Okay.
that went to Berkeley, and I moved out front and did other things.
Oh.
So Larry would play with us, and I went there and saw that. I came back. I got a book from Gary Chafee because he was teaching at Berkeley at
Okay.
that time, and I started teaching myself. When I quit teaching, I had 60 students.
Whoa.
60. 60, yeah.
Yeah.
Half-hour lessons. I was teaching out in Girard. I was teaching in Fairview. There's music stores that are long gone since then.
Yeah, right.
But I was teaching from Gary Chafee's book. And so after the Dorris Brothers band broke up and we had our real estate, I decided to get out and become a welder and a machinist.
Oh, I didn't know
And I got
that.
licensed in that, and then I got a job offer at GE to work in there, because I did really well as a machinist and a welder.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized I either was going to kill myself or I should move to Boston.
I was going to say, how did you get to Boston? That's
So-
a great reason why.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
reason why. I saw my future.
Yeah.
So I just picked up 2 weeks later. I was in Boston sleeping on my buddy Larry Maxim's couch.
This is
And my girlfriend.
70s.
78, that would be.
okay.
Before we moved, I did Whiskey River.
Country band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With my brother Bob, because Bill left. He moved to D.C. So Bob and I started with Dennis Kozak.
Yeah. Who was in Whiskey River? I've heard that
Yeah,
band
and
before.
Vic somebody.
I don't know.
And we were really popular.
Country band. And
Country.
That's a totally different genre than,
That's
But-
that's when I started my harmonica playing.
Oh, I didn't know you played harmonica. All right.
Yeah.
And so were you drumming
Drumming,
also?
playing harmonica, singing.
All
And
right.
we did that for a couple of years, but then the whiskey caught up with us. Whiskey River was a terrible freaking game.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun and too much fun.
Where did a country band play back then aside from the,
what's the
BW Saloon up there?
Well, actually, we've
Best
spent
Western,
a
or-
lot of time at that. What's the place that's out on the other side of Fairview? It's now it was a strip joint.
Yeah. It has the horse.
Yeah, the horse, right.
I played there with Anthony Stefanelli.
Oh, okay.
Town Terrace.
Town Terrace.
Yep,
Yes, we
right,
played there a
right.
lot. We just did a lot of country gigs for quite a while.
Yeah.
That's a couple of years running, and that that had to end. I could only and then actually I joined Sky's the Limit.
Were you really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I was with them for a while.
Originally, or
That was early.
did you
70s.
join them?
That was
as
after
they were already formed.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
okay.
invited into their band by their guitarist.
Okay.
Who's a
Not-
famous Erie guitarist.
Not Kenny Hollis.
No, not Kenny.
Oh,
No.
okay. Who was the original guitarist in that band? Shoot, I don't know. I can't remember.
can't remember
Yeah,
it.
they were all sort of fantastic players in their own right, and very young.
Very young, and, very wild.
Yeah.
That's all I remember about is being wild. Yeah. So
Dance band. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you really dipped your toe in just about all the different genres.
Yep.
And but then you randomly go to Boston, get this jazz bug, and you move there?
Yeah. What I did was I studied a couple of years of piano with Basil Ronzitti. Got enough chops together on piano to be like stupid.
Yeah.
Not very good. But I moved to Boston because I wanted to study with Gary Chafee. So I moved there and I called him up and he said he'd give me private lessons.
The guy who wrote the book.
The book.
Yeah.
And I'm there playing with, studied with Gary Chafee for a couple of years. We'd go over and he would sit down. Okay, for my lesson today, we'd sit and listen to Miles Davis for an hour or two.
Just
listen. 9 a.m, having a beer.
Yeah.
Adult entertainment. At 9 a.m, and then eventually, him and I played all the time because the way he taught was I'd practice my lesson. We'd go back, he'd play it, and I'd parrot him, or play it and he'd parrot me.
Okay.
And we'd trade fours and that, and then he'd bring in other drummers like Smith from Journey. Studied with them.
Yeah, Steve Smith.
Yeah, Steve would come in and we'd do a trio jamming. Steve and
wow.
There were a lot of great players. Tim Landers was I got to play with him on bass. I got to play. When I got there, I got lucky.
Were some of the other guys from Erie up there at that time? Because I know a few folks went up there. Like Durf even was there for a little while.
Yeah, the only one was a bass player, and he was in Pulse.
Bob Berger?
No. Jeff?
He was in Jeff Berger.
No.
Two brothers were in. Then Marty Lee was in the Pulse.
Yeah, and, this was the bass player for them.
That was Bob.
Okay, that was before him. It was Pulse. There was another bass player. He was really good. He might have played with C.J. Bry, too. I'm not sure.
Durf McKeedon?
Nope, that's not him.
Different Durf, yeah.
But he was the only one I met, actually, up there.
Yeah, because I know Novello was there
John
for a
was
while.
there, yep.
And Durf Hopsager was there. And, a few folks have told me. They obviously went to Berkeley or hung out at Berkeley for a while. And then,
Galt? No, it was
Paul Gall.
Paul Gall, that's the one.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
Really good player.
He plays for Donnie Iris now.
That's okay.
Connection.
Yeah, he was in Boston. I got to see him.
Yeah.
My first gig in Boston, I got there, I opened up a paper, I needed a gig. So my first gig, I just called up the guy, he goes, singing drummer, great, show up here. It was in the heart of the Irish section.
Okay.
And he goes, so I get there, he has a rug on the bar. He's sitting on the bar and he expects me to put my drum set on this bar. I get my drums up there and they're just like I can't reach everything, but I'm on the bar. And he goes, okay, he goes, just follow me, but here, put this on first. He hands me a yellow canary jacket.
What the hell?
I'm sitting there in a yellow canary jacket on a bar with this guy doing the hokiest tunes.
What's he doing? Is he playing guitar?
He's playing keyboards.
Is he on the bar
and
too?
He's on the bar also. And it was the wildest thing. I thanked him afterwards, and he paid me well.
I was going to say.
I was never going to do it.
Never did it again. Yeah. That's a one and done.
That was my first one. And, then eventually I actually ended up in the Combat Zone. Which was, John Novello played Combat Zone a lot. And that's where it was a bunch of strip clubs. I played strip joints and a lot of...
So it was like an area of Boston called the
Combat Zone.
Oh.
It was your seediest area in Boston.
Okay, all right.
And I was treated really well. I got paid really well.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the entertainers would put me in the middle of the stage because I probably turned red more than anybody else. I was from Erie.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
they're dancing all around you.
It was wild. It was such a good time. Wow. And that paid so much better. From there, I had the gay vets club.
Yeah.
They had their own golf course. And it was just fantastic gigs that I was playing with Jake and Gene. And Jake was an amazing player. Unfortunately, he had to get blood transfusions about once a month because he was such a druggie.
And he was a guitar player?
He was a keyboard player who could sing any genre. And Jean, she was about 6'4" and truly loved in that community.
Okay.
And she was a big woman who
Yeah.
really treated me. They all treated me so well. I was so lucky.
What type of stuff are you playing?
Donna Summers.
So this is disco era. We're still in the 70s?
We're in the 80s
No,
now.
we're in the 80s?
Yeah,
Okay.
but that stuff was still selling really
Yeah.
big in the clubs and the nightclubs. We did dance music for nightclubs, basically. And we were the act in between when the DJs came on.
Okay.
You know, so yeah.
In between.
In between.
The music is in
Yeah.
between DJs.
Yeah.
That shows you how it shifted during that time period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's we were being put out of work.
Yeah.
But and luckily I moved in with Frank Singer.
I was going to say, so you somehow meet Frank, and
Yeah.
you two have been together for decades. And
Yeah.
so how does that even happen? I mean, is he living up there? Is he
was
from there?
Yeah, he was at Berkeley. You know, he graduated top of his class at Berkeley.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
It actually doesn't surprise me.
Doesn't surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah.
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 The guy, Larry Maxim, that I said, who I met, he was actually playing with Frank at that time in a band.
Okay.
So, and then Frank and I met, and we started playing. My brother Bob came up on bass, and he joined us. We had a bass player before he came up, and we started doing fusion stuff.
Yeah.
And we got an agent that actually, you're a singing drummer. And so I had an agent.
Were you the only one singing in the band?
No, there were. But
Your brother sang, obviously.
Well, he wasn't in that band.
Oh,
He never
okay.
made it to that. But Frank was in that, and we had the lead singer. He ended up going on tour with Pat Metheny,
Yeah.
singing, background playing,
Okay.
B trumpet. Great singer. And we had the reason he knew that is because Mike Metheny his brother was on the EV instrument with us.
Okay.
And then our trombone player actually was the chart writer for Buddy Rich, and was trombone with Buddy Rich for a couple
Wow.
of years. And our band leader was an old cat who played with everybody and was just hokey as could be. But he had the circuit down, so we played really, we did a lot of gigs. We played 5 times between Friday and Sunday.
Is
We did
this
5
the
gigs.
band where you eventually play with Vanessa Williams, Cab Calloway, that type
Yeah,
of stuff?
that was that stuff, yeah.
And what was the circuit as you describe? How far were you going?
We were down in Rhode Island. We were up in New Hampshire, Maine. Yeah,
Okay.
we went all over. Our biggest regret was we were invited to do a wedding down in Miami, and we were going to be followed by the Beach Boys.
Oh,
But our agent had a bigger gig in Boston, so he wouldn't let us go.
great.
Yeah.
Great.
What a joke. But yeah, I did the celebration so many times, it's hard for me to even say the word.
I'm sure
I was
you
going to take
did.
my sticks and commit hair carry.
But some of those gigs, like I mentioned those names, I mean, how was that? I mean, were you a backing band for those folks, or what happened?
Oh, it was great. For years there, I was called up to do the big band stuff.
you were like a session
16,
player
18
at that
piece,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
And our agent got it for us.
Okay.
It was Frank was either on bass or Frank would be on piano, behind these big names.
Yeah.
It was real interesting. The union came around to our manager, everybody was in the band, but Frank and I. And
Everybody was in the union,
In the
you mean?
union,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it had worked out. We didn't have to join the union because we didn't do any other gigs other than those. We weren't,
Oh,
we weren't school teachers. We didn't really need
yeah,
the
yeah,
union.
yeah.
But we had the chops to carry that sort of stuff. So
Yeah, because back
Yeah.
then, I mean, being in the union, even here in Erie, was a thing you had
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
And were you here also when you were in Erie? When you were younger?
Because not when I was younger. Basil asked me to join.
Okay.
And we did that for a while.
Yeah.
Because of Basil. But while we were in Boston, we we stayed with Kurt Vonnegut and played at the Kennedy Estate.
Wow.
We had some wild gigs.
Yeah,
It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, I mean, those must be those memorable gigs that you tell your kids about, like, oh, this one time I was playing with whomever. I mean,
Yeah, they really don't have a clue.
no? Come on.
Well, Cab Calloway, Frank actually, I think, was the piano player in that gig. I
Okay.
mean, he's just such an ultimate musician.
Yeah, right.
We had a lot of fun. Tip O'Neill.
Tipper Gore. Oh,
Yeah.
Tip O'Neill. Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
The congressman.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, we played his retirement party, which was a who's who. And I sat up right behind him, and they're toasting Tip. They're just, somebody standing in front talking about how great he is. And literally he's sitting there holding on his lap the wine list and reading the wine list. It came by his name naturally. So there was all that sort of stuff that we got to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what happens? Eventually you and Frank moved back to Erie, but what was the impetus for that?
We just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't do top 40. I have not played a song I don't want to play since then.
All right. So when is this? When do you move back?
80.
In 80?
Actually, it was like 78, 79. I told my dad I couldn't take it anymore and I need a gig, you know, like a paying gig. In which case he said, well, he'd get me into appraising. He was just had retired, but if I want to come back and become an appraiser. So I actually flew home to Erie for almost a year and would study, work with him and then go back to Boston, do all my gigs. And I did that for almost a year before Frank and Mary actually said, let's move to Erie. And I was like, well, that's okay for a short bit. So I was here and I was going to be gone in a year. And my brother came back and he's the one that left.
Did you restart the Dorris Brothers or no?
No, Frank and I and Celeste did something for a while, made money.
Cats a Bear starts around 82, right?
Yeah, Cats a Bear was 82. Yeah, we kept that going. We came back and played that, and we went to Pittsburgh and played and that sort of thing. But Cats a Bear's just, the fusion's too much for most people. Yeah, in a city like Boston, we were getting tons of airplay. We got to play at all the studios live. We had a steady gig at Riles, which nobody else had. We had that for almost 2 years, which was great. It was great fun.
So talk to me then about Cats a Bear. That's a duo at first with just you and Frank, right?
It was a duo. It was a duo because actually it started off, we had a couple keyboard, we had a couple bass players, upright bass player, electric bass players, and then my brother Bob eventually came and took that seat. A couple keyboard players. One was a full-time teacher at Berkeley. The other one, who was really good, he ended up taking off and doing synth sounds for Prince.
Oh, sure.
I can't blame him.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We hated him. But it got, we had another keyboard player, DeMarco. She married Jerry Bagonzi and, took off and did that sort of jazz instead. She was a great player.
But this was all under the name Cats a Bear? So you
all
started
under the
that
name Cats a Bear.
up in Boston?
Yeah.
And what's the origin of the name, by the way?
That's the Ron Zitties. Basil would always talk about the Bears, about how, that guy's a bear. Okay, jazz slang.
Yeah.
And Nick would always say, hey, you hear that cat play? And so Cat's a Bear.
Got it. That's awesome. That's a great story. Yeah. So when you guys come back, what happens? You decide you're going to do the appraisal thing, but you need to play, and you don't want to play Celebration anymore.
Right.
And you're going to play fusion or jazz or both?
We did fusion. We did our Cats a Bear stuff, and we kept that going.
Okay.
We played that a lot and traveled around a little more with that.
You did? You traveled?
Yeah, not a lot because, once again, we don't like traveling.
And I wondered, is there a lot of places down here, even in this region? You were in Boston where it was accepted way more.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was harder to find. Like when we played in Pittsburgh, like I said, it's not a fusion town.
Yeah, right.
So, so that didn't go over so well. So we did our few gigs that we could get, and in the meantime, I just kept jamming with other players, and Basil always wanted to play. So we ended up getting the Paper Moon gig. Basil and I, and that went for about 14 years.
And that is, Paper Moon was on State Street. Like 14th
and State. Yeah.
And gone now, but forget what it's even called.
It's a daycare center now.
It's a daycare center? All right. That's why I don't know what it's called. But, and was that, did you still call that Cats a Bear?
No, that was big. Basically, I let Basil take the gig. I had kids starting to come up around then. And I couldn't take every weekend. I did not want to play. So, whenever I wanted to, I played because I was the singing drummer. Once again.
Always the singing drummer.
Yeah. But with Basil, it was a lot of fun. I got to scat a lot.
Were you doing covers?
Oh, just jazz standards.
Just all jazz standards?
Just all jazz standards.
Okay,
Yeah, Basil would pull a jazz standard out, put it on my drum and say, okay, sing this. And I'm like, I've never heard it.
Yeah.
He goes, okay, well, I'll play the melody first, then sing the next. Yeah, it's like, good Lord. So luckily I don't have a lot of recordings of those.
Yeah. So where does Tito Ronzitti and his Banditti come into? That's like an 89, I think around there maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so actually what happened is Tony Stefanelli shows up at my door.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know Tony, even though...
Oh, I wondered.
Yeah. He's like moved back from Detroit.
Yep.
And he was making chocolates at Stefanelli's at the time.
Right.
And Yeah, he shows up and he says, "Yeah, I want to play." And he had just recorded it before he left in Detroit, a blues album with some really good blues players.
Okay.
And I've always been doing blues. Actually, I did because I was a harmonica player. I was pretty much steeped in that too. So we got together with Tony and we got Vinny over there, and that's
His
when
brother.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And Frank and myself, and started that sort of thing.
Okay. So Phil Popotnik joined you, or no?
Phil joined us.
Right.
Yeah. Phil was like a 20-year player also.
And Anthony, a young Anthony, plays a little
Young
percussion
Anthony,
with you?
when we did JD Jazz and Blue, or JD Blues, which was the blues band that we evolved into also. Yeah, I moved out front to sing and play harmonica, and Anthony was on drums, and Tom Hitt would play drums also.
Tom Hitt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good players, all of them.
Oh, yeah.
So where does Tito then? Because they kind of overlap, right?
Yeah, Tito has been in and out of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes wild.
I even mean the band.
Yeah.
Tito.
The band.
Yeah,
was,
Tito the band.
Because he shows up back in my life.
Is that what it is?
And it's like, okay, you can play percussion. Actually, if you ever look at our Tito in Wonderland CD, Frank's father, was world-renowned artist. Okay, he has stuff at the Smithsonian, has it in their basement.
Wow.
He did our cover for us.
Okay.
And it's a picture of Tito hitchhiking a ride on a merry-go-round.
Great visual.
And it's Tito.
Yeah.
To it, it was like everyone went, "Yep, that's who he is." And he was just my buddy. Since I've been 19.
Yeah.
When I met him, I'm sitting outside of Ron City Music in my blue Oldsmobile 99, sweating, waiting for this guy to show up. I'm like 18.
Yeah.
And this bulky, weightlifting, kind of gnome-looking dude shows up, and I'm like, oh, God, I wouldn't want to meet him in an alley. And as he walks by, I notice he has drumsticks in his back pocket. And I'm like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
And he walks into Ron City's. I'm like, okay, this is my teacher.
So he was your teacher.
He was my teacher, and him and I just became really good friends.
So when you would play together, you would sing and he would play drums, or
occasionally, yeah.
He would play percussion.
He'd play
sometimes,
drums.
or
He'd play percussion
whatever.
a lot. Yeah,
He did,
yeah. We got congas and timbales and percussion, and had him doing that.
Right.
And we just, as a percussionist, I always nicknamed him Tito.
Yeah.
It's just and it's stuck.
I love the description I read in the paper about, this was for Tito Ronzitti and his Banditti. You may have said this. It says, we are Latin jazz funk fusion played by mostly Italian guys.
Yeah.
Great description.
Yeah, that was the truth.
So, like you said, you released that, it was a tape at the time, right? In Search of Revolution.
Yep.
And that's all original.
Yeah, that was all originals.
All right. And back then, how different was it than it is today? There probably were very few places to play. Like you said, you were playing Paper Moon, you play the Art Annex once in a while, probably. But I mean, the gigs had to be few and far between.
Yeah, we don't do it to gig. We do it because we enjoy it.
Yeah.
Gigs actually a hassle because then I got to move equipment. Yeah. So I didn't need to get out. Frank likes to play out a little more. Our bass players always want to be out a little more. On the other hand,
This is back in the 90s, probably, right?
Yeah. And I had three daughters, and my wife was the full-time worker, and I had my own business, but I was responsible for the three daughters.
Got it.
So, yeah.
So you weren't playing 7 days a week at the Calabrese Club anymore?
Nope.
Yeah, right. No 1 to 4 gigs. Yeah. So what then, obviously I always say these same words, the podcast goes up to 1990, but, I know that you've continued to play with many of those guys, Tony Stefanelli and Frank, all these years.
Yeah.
Did you ever, since then, have you ever played in a band that is not jazz or fusion? Like, did you ever get another blues band?
Oh, blues bands, yeah.
Blues bands.
Yeah, the JD Blues has been
off and on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Throughout the years. I mean, we did 8 Great Tuesdays with a really nice horn section.
Oh, okay.
That Jeff Gibbons actually really organized for me at the rehearsal.
Great dude.
Yeah, and I had I think Dave Blates was on bass, Frank on guitar. Yeah, I mean, we just had it was a really fun band.
Yeah.
And we just did a couple of those sort of gigs. We'd pull it together and do those when there's enough money.
Yeah, right.
There's usually not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, JD Blues has always been around.
All right.
And we even still go out and do an occasional blues gig.
What about now? I know you still play.
Yeah.
With who and where?
What happened when COVID hit?
Yeah.
Everybody stopped playing. We did Jamulus, which we could sit at our house and jam with other people, but it just was not quite the same. The
Sure.
time could be off just slightly. And since it came back, I do my Wednesday night jams with Cat's Bear, and that's with Joe Frasino on bass.
Okay.
He comes up from Meadville every Wednesday. Tito on congas, and Frank on guitar.
Where at?
In my basement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have a little recordings, 24 track going down there.
Yeah.
And then on Thursdays, it's a jam session. And that's usually, right now it has settled in. We've had Alice Hutter on horns. We got Tito, Dave Calabrese on piano, Paul Olson from Baron here on piano.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Vinny Stefanelli, Tony Stefanelli, Frank.
So terrible
Richard.
players. No,
Yeah.
nobody any good.
Well,
right?
but it's.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Richard and Alice are like beginner horn players.
Oh,
and
really? Yeah. I
They
don't know
really
them.
weren't very good.
Okay.
And now, a couple of years later, they're pretty much better. and actually, we just started another horn player last week. He's
And
gonna
this
be
is
joining.
in your basement also.
And this is all in my basement. Yeah.
All right.
And I don't really need to move out of there.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. No, we did Room 33 for a couple of years.
Yeah, right.
That was a great jam session. And that was the B band, the Thursday night band.
Right.
And we had players coming up from Buffalo and that sort of thing. When Tony had his thing going and when I was at Paper Moon, I brought in literally 45 out-of-town artists that I've brought in.
Yeah.
And that
So when
was-
you talk about Tony had his thing going, at Romelo's, he had the series going
Yeah.
for a
And
number of summers.
Yep. And with Bob Protzman, Bob was iconic as a jazz critic.
Okay.
He was really well known with Downbeat Magazine. And when he moved back to Erie, he called me up and said, we got to get together. And I'm thinking, this guy's a jerk. And I was totally right, but he was a great guy to hang out with. Him and I had so much fun. But he's you don't get to be a great jazz writer in Minnesota without, really butting heads.
Yeah, right,
And
right.
he butt heads with a lot of people, especially locally in Erie. He didn't quite fit in.
Sure.
But that's how we brought in all these great players that I got to work with. Yeah.
And does Jazz Erie still exist?
Jazz Erie still exists. I'm really not sure what they do.
Okay.
I don't, it just.
I just wondered, what is the scene like, even if you did want to come out and play once in a while?
Yeah, they don't have anything going on that
Okay.
I'm aware of.
Right.
If I want to play jazz, it would be Room 33. Oh, what is it, Julius's? The old Manicore Club?
Oh, yeah, it just opened.
Just
Yeah,
opened,
right.
yeah. I went and saw John Novello there. the
Yeah,
other
John
night.
Madden played there with John Novello. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So that, Jim Madden's, it's his gig.
Oh, Jim Madden.
I'm going to be playing there October 5th, and I'll be playing harmonica and singing.
Cool.
Yeah.
What type of stuff?
Jazz.
All
Jazz,
just-
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Standards.
when we had Richie Cole here playing with Frank
Yeah.
and I, Richie asked me on his last album, and I'm like, oh, I'll catch the next one. I didn't have time. That album went in the top 5, and then Richie died.
Oh, no.
Oops.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. He wanted me to sing and play some harmonica and that, which, I'm not that harmonica player.
Right.
I get by.
Yeah, I was going
have
to
a
say,
lot
I
of fun.
mean, do you, when you're in the basement, are you just playing drums?
No, I play harmonica and sing on Thursday nights. Little drums. Nick and I go back and forth.
Okay.
And because he likes to play congas, and Wednesday nights all drums.
Okay.
Yeah.
No more piano?
No, it's something I want to take back up, but I want to stay on top of my drum chops, so
Yeah.
I rehearse. I play about 5 nights a week.
How old are you?
68.
68. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when I talked to Tony, he, being a shitty bass player like I am, I idolize guys like Tony, especially older guys who say to me, oh no, I practice every week and I go and do this. And like, he'll talk about going over to Walt's house to practice along with some recordings that he had made, or his brother had made. And I'm
Yeah.
like, at your age, you're still doing that. He said, that's what makes you better.
Yeah.
And that's the type of stuff that I love hearing,
Yeah. I'm taking harmonica lessons online right now.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah. And no plans to sing Celebration anytime soon.
No.
No?
Well, actually, give me $1,000.
All right, you heard that out there. Any of you bar owners out there, that one hit, one song. Yeah, it'll be awesome. Well, good. I think that's great. What else? Did we miss anything, Joe?
No, that pretty well covers a lot of what we did.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No great stories, no bad stories you want to tell me of playing up in Boston or anything, any crazy things happening other than playing on a bar with a guy wearing a yellow outfit? I don't know how you're going to top it.
I did an airplane game in Boston. You know what the airplane is?
I do
Okay,
not.
that's one of those pyramid things.
Okay.
And somebody said, okay, he gave me 20,000 and I could keep 10 of it as long as we made it to the top. And what I did was I specialized in the Irish. So they would come off the boat, the Irish, and they had money and they wanted to put it into a pyramid scheme. So I'd go down and we'd be at a bar and I couldn't understand any of them because their dialect was so strong. I mean, I don't know how they understood me, but we did that I made a few bucks doing that, making it to the top and back. But then they found out I was a musician. They had me play a bar in that section of Boston.
Yeah.
And after the bar, I came out, and another bar across the street, and it was a total different ethnic group came out. And I had my gear sitting in the sidewalk outside this bar, and they started throwing bottles over my head at each another. The two different groups. That's when I learned there's places I'm not going to play.
Yeah, right, right, yeah.
It was pretty wild.
Wow.
Being a musician got me into a lot of, I got to go backstage and hang out at the Orpheum Theater because I also helped clean there.
Oh.
Larry, my buddy Larry, once again, it was a gig.
Yeah.
So, we got to meet the Talking Heads and
cool.
Tin Roof, whatever the hell they were.
Right.
Yeah.
B-52s.
B-52s, yeah.
I got you.
And, but the best thing we did, because we were musicians, we'd say hi to them. They'd go on stage. We'd go backstage and rate all the food.
That's what happens at the green room.
You got it. Yeah. We wanted to eat. We were really happy to eat. So, yeah.
That's perfect. All right. Well, I don't know how we can top that. How about we end it there?
That's great. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. It was great meeting you and great talking to you.
It was great meeting you. Yeah. And you're a bass player.
I'm a shitty bass player. Yes.
Oh, that's okay. I'm a shitty harmonica player.
You're
we'll
not.
get together.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of the Erie Music History Podcast. I want to say thanks to the JPT Foundation. They have been a financial supporter of the podcast since the beginning, and they also will give us a free space to have our monthly music night on the first Tuesday of the month. It always features our great house band, the Fabulous Leftovers, as well as a lot of other local bands and musicians. Sometimes it's a basic open mic after that, but it's a lot of fun. First Tuesday of the month, totally free. Any donations go to the Second Harvest Food Bank. It is BYOB. You can bring in alcohol, drinks, whatever you'd like. There's a great pizza shop next door, Pasalinqua's. There's a Subway in the plaza, so check that out the first Tuesday of the month. Aside from the JPT Foundation, I want to thank Angelo Phillips, who has been a financial supporter of the podcast for the past couple months. Angelo is a great local musician who I will be happy to play with. Next year, we're going to play a few gigs together, so looking forward to that. Also, make sure that you check out Jack Stevenson's Two-Man Happy Hour podcast. Basically tells you where people are playing today, where and when, and you can check that out at the number2manhappyhour.com. Check that out. He also does a weekly podcast with our sound man for the monthly music night, Brian Waller, as well as Nat the Hat. So the three of them do a great podcast where they interview local musicians, and they again talk about who is playing where. But more importantly, they play a lot of local music on that. So check that out. That's Music Chat with Nat the Hat, and you can find that on Facebook anywhere. All right, that's all I got for you. Thanks again for listening.